Hello, my friends, and welcome. This is our sixth session of our preparation for the theory exam in the Netherlands. Today, we are going to talk about priority on the road. So let's imagine the situation. Let's imagine that you are driving down the road and you reach to an intersection. When you reach to this intersection, you notice that there is a military convoy crossing this intersection. And there are like 200 vehicles crossing this intersection, all military convoy. Are you allowed to go through this military convoy, or you have to wait for all the vehicles to pass? We're going to discuss this during today's session. So let's get started. In the previous session, we discussed about even intersections. Let's quickly mention the even intersection and see what do you mean by that. Even intersection meaning that the road is paved, so it's not a dirt road or unpaved road, and there are no markings or signboards to organize the movement on the intersection. So as we can see here, the road is paved and we don't have any signs. Like we don't have the shark teeth. We don't have a sign here telling us to stop or to give priority. Sometimes if there is a stop sign, you'll find here a stop and there is a solid line for you to stop. We don't have those. So we call it even intersection. Now let's imagine that here we have a sign, but this sign, let's say it's saying no parking, no stopping. Do we consider this as even intersection, even that we have this sign? Actually, yes, we consider it even intersection because the signs that we are talking about are the signs that organize the priority on the intersection. Other than this, all the other signs doesn't matter. If it's existing or not existing, doesn't matter. For us, we care only about the signs that organize the intersection. Now, there are a few scenarios we have to discuss on even intersections. First, let's say you have this intersection over here. We are driving the red car as usual, and we have a driver coming from our right. Then, as we remember, we have to give the priority to the drivers coming from our right. So this car will cross first, then we follow. In this scenario over here, we have our red car, and then we have a tram coming from our left. Now, at even intersections, you have to give the priority to the trams from all directions, not only from your right, from your left, from the opposite side. The tram always has the priority on the even intersection. Now, the third scenario, we have this intersection and we have this ambulance crossing. Ambulance, as we learn, it's priority vehicle. So we have to give priority only if the sirens and the emergency lights are on. Here we can see the lights are on, and here we have the signals to show us that the sirens are on as well. In this scenario, we have to wait for the ambulance, then we can cross. Now let's talk about the other type of intersections. As you can imagine, those are uneven or unequal intersections. Here we have shark teeth, and we have this sign to tell us that the priority is for the other drivers. And here it's telling us to stop, and we have this road marking, solid line, telling us to stop as well. So in this scenario, this we call unequal or uneven intersection. If you need to know more about this subject, please check the links in the description where you can check our packages and choose the suitable one for you. Now, there are a few tips we have to discuss. When you reach to uneven intersection or even intersection, doesn't matter. You have always to slow down to about 20 kilometers per hour. Let's say you are reaching to an intersection and there's a driver coming from your right. Then this driver might think that you will not give the priority, and it will create disturbance on the road if you're driving very fast. If you stop at the very last minute, the drivers might think that you're not giving them the priority, and this will create disturbance on the road. Now, the stop sign is straightforward, meaning that you have to stop. Tires must reach to a complete stop. Then when you are sure that the intersection is clear, there are no other drivers are using, then you may cross the intersection. Now let's talk about T-junction. Now let's discuss first this sign. This sign means that we have an intersection ahead. So we can see here that we're driving down this road and we saw this sign. What does it mean? It means that we have to be careful and we have to give away to other cars. Let's say you are driving this red car as usual. Here we have to be extra careful. Why? Because those drivers coming from the wider road, they think they have the priority. So this driver, let's say he didn't notice this sign and he thought that this is a priority road, then maybe he will not slow down or give the priority to our vehicle. So in this scenario, we have always to be careful. Maybe this road is considered as priority, but it's narrower than the road that it's merging to this road. So it's narrower than this road. So in such a scenario, you just have to pay extra attention. Now, as we can see here, we have a green signal, and as usual, we are driving this red vehicle. Can we cross this intersection? The answer is no. We are not allowed to cross unless we can cross to the other side of the intersection in one shot. So you cannot cross and stop here, and then this signal will become green, and then you block the way for the other vehicles. When the road is clear, then you can cross. Also, you have to be extra careful about this in the practical exam. So maybe you reach to a signal and it's green, but you cannot cross the intersection in one shot, meaning that like here we have a car blocking the way, there's traffic. So you should always stop, even if it's green. Then when you have a room and the signal is green, of course, then you can cross the intersection. Now we have this case over here. We are driving this red car as usual and we want to go right, and then we have this car opposite to us. It also wants to go in the same direction. Now who should cross the intersection first? Here we apply the smallest route, so the smallest turn. As we can notice that the turn like this is shorter than the turn like this, so we should cross first, then the car opposite to us will cross after us. In this case, both drivers should allow some room to the other driver to cross this intersection, meaning this driver will cross the intersection and he will allow some room for our vehicle to cross as well, so we don't hit each other, or simply they can wait for each other, doesn't matter. Now let's talk about military convoys. As we can see here, we have this convoy, we have the first car. How do you know that this is the first car? Because there are two blue flags at the front of the car, and of course there is one blue light, as we discussed at the first session. Now the first car, if the first car was here and it's red signal, then the first car is same as a normal vehicle. It must stop at the red signals. When there is shark teeth, should give the priority to the other drivers. So the first vehicle is always considered as a normal vehicle, the one which has two flags. However, those vehicles over here, the one with the blue flag, let's say it was a green signal, this vehicle crossed. Now those vehicles, they may cross also the red light. They're allowed to cut off a red light. In such a scenario, let's say we are driving and we notice it's green, then we check the other cars. If they cross the intersection, then we must wait even if it's a green signal. After the military convoy cross the intersection, then we may cross the intersection. Now, as we see here, we have a red signal, but we found ourselves in the middle of the convoy. How do we know that we are in the middle of the convoy? We can check the vehicle behind of us. It has only one flag. It means the first vehicle, the one with two flags, already crossed the red light. So in such a scenario, you must always wait for the red signal. You cannot cross. So those vehicles, they keep waiting till it become green signal, then you cross, then they follow you. Now let's answer the question that we asked at the beginning of this session. We have this scenario over here. We have this military convoy. This is the first vehicle already crossed. And then we have the rest of the vehicles, but you have the priority on the road. So it means this sign, if we remember, it means we have the priority. In such a scenario, you're allowed to go through and cross the military convoy even if the first vehicle already crossed the intersection. So here we are allowed to cross the intersection. See, we have shark teeth, and we have this sign. We may cross the intersection. How about pedestrians? How should they behave when there is a military convoy? Let's say we have this zebra crossing and we have this pedestrian crossing the road. As we said, the first vehicle in the military convoy, we consider it as a normal vehicle. So the first vehicle must allow the pedestrian to cross. Once this pedestrian cross the street, the convoy, they can go on their journey. Now, if we have a different scenario, let's say the first vehicle already crossed. The vehicle with two flags already crossed the zebra crossing, and we have the rest of the convoy following. In such a scenario, we are not allowed to cross the road till we see, of course, the car with the vehicle with the green flag. It means the last vehicle of the convoy has already crossed. Then we may cross the road. Now we have this scenario over here. We have the military convoy crossing an uneven intersection. In such a scenario, we are not allowed to go through the military convoy like the scenario where we have the priority when there are shark teeth to organize the intersection. If it's even intersection, it means the military convoy has the priority, so they can cross and we have to wait. It doesn't matter if you are coming from their right or not. So they have the priority regardless of the direction that they are coming from. Now let's talk about funeral procession. It's pretty much identical to the military convoy. The first vehicle of the funeral procession, we consider it as a normal vehicle. Like the previous case, we have this funeral procession crossing even intersection. The first vehicle crossed the intersection, and we have the other cars they want to cross. Here we must give the priority to the other cars since they have this flag. So we consider them as a group together like the military convoy. And we allow the other cars to cross the intersection even if we are coming from their right. So pretty much similar to the previous case we just discussed. Now let's say this car, the first car, was here when we reached the intersection. So the first car is like a normal car. When they reach the intersection, if you are coming from the right, they should give us the priority. Now we have this case. The first car didn't cross the intersection yet. So we always consider the first car as a normal car. So they must give us the priority so we can cross the intersection. Then the funeral procession may cross the intersection after us. Also similar to the military convoy, if a pedestrian wants to cross, the first vehicle should allow the pedestrians to cross. Once the first vehicle crossed, then the other cars, they may cross behind that car and not give the priority to the pedestrian. So the pedestrian should wait till all the cars has passed, then he can cross. And of course, this is only if the cars having this flag, the funeral flag that we discussed in our first session. Now we have this scenario over here. We have funeral procession crossing and we have a bus waiting to leave its bus stop. So in such a scenario, the bus must wait till all the funeral procession vehicles has passed. Then the bus can leave the bus stop. This is of course if the first vehicle already crossed. It doesn't matter in this case if the bus is inside or outside residential areas. the bus must always give the funeral procession the priority. But as we discussed, if this is the first vehicle and it didn't cross the bus, then the bus can exit, no problem. Now let's talk about priority on the road when turning. As we discussed before, if you're making a turn, you have to give away to all other road users. All other road users, meaning the drivers and pedestrians. So we have this scenario over here. We are driving this red car. We are making a turn. We have this pedestrian trying to cross the street. We must give priority to the pedestrian because the pedestrian didn't change direction. They're walking like this. We are the one who changed the direction like this. So we are the one making the turn. We must give the priority to the pedestrians. In this scenario, however, we are approaching this intersection and we see that there is a pedestrian willing to cross the road. In such a scenario, we can continue going forward because we didn't change direction. As long as we don't turn, we don't lose the priority. Now here we have some more examples. Here always you check the car. We are the one who is turning. The pedestrians, they are just going on their way, so we must always give the way to the pedestrians. Now here we have a special case. We see a senior person trying to cross the street using the walker. We are also crossing this intersection. At this case, we have to give the priority to the pedestrian as a special case. As you remember, also we discussed those cases on our first session. Also, among the special cases that we discussed, if we have a priority vehicle, then we must also give the priority. Now, sometimes we have such a roads which is narrowing. So we can see the road is wide from this side, but it's narrowing from this side. If we have this red round sign, it means that we must allow this car to pass first. So we wait at the wide section of the road and we allow this car to cross first. And if let's say we are crossing the road and we found this sign, it means this car must allow us to cross first. Let's see an example of this. So here it's telling us that we have the priority to cross over this car. So this car actually must wait for us to cross, then they can cross. However, if you check the same road from the other side, let's go ahead and do this. They have this red signal, meaning that we must give the priority to the drivers coming from this direction. Of course, at the zebra crossing, motorists must give away to the pedestrians and drivers of handicapped vehicles over the crossing. Also, drivers must give away to the buses leaving the bus stop within the residential areas. So let's say we are driving this red car and we have the priority on the road. We're going on our journey. Then this bus starting to give signal and leaving the bus stop. In such a scenario, we must stop and allow the bus to cross because this road is inside a residential area. However, outside residential areas, no problem. We can just pass by the bus, meaning we don't have to give the bus the priority to come on the road. So two things to remember. Inside residential areas, if a bus willing to leave the bus stop, we must give them away. Outside residential areas, that's not necessary. Okay, now let's discuss the priority on the roundabout. So we are driving on the roundabout. There is one very important thing to remember. Always on the roundabout, imagine that this is a road like this. And whenever you want to make an exit out of the roundabout, it's like you are making a turn. So here we have this road and we want to exit to this road over here. It means we are turning our car into this direction. So always you lose the priority while turning as we agreed. And we must give the priority to all other road users, meaning we have to allow pedestrians. If we have a bicycle over here, we must allow the bicycle to cross. Once the road is clear, then we can turn or exit the roundabout in this case. However, let's say the pedestrian was over here, okay, and willing to cross into this direction. We're driving from this road over here. We reach to this shark teeth. We stop over here. If there are cars coming, if there is a moped coming, then we allow them to cross first. Then we can cross, no problem. We don't have to wait for the pedestrian over here, right? Only when we reach inside here, for example, and then we want to exit, then we allow all road users. But at the entrance of the roundabout, if we have such a sign, the shark teeth, you only allow drivers of all vehicles. Now, let's test our knowledge and see if we remember anything from today's class. You want to keep going forward. Do you let the ambulance pass first or not? So here it could be tricky, in the final exam, they might show you a picture where there's an ambulance, but the lights are not on. So in this case, we have the lights are on and we have this signals telling us like the sirens are on as well. In such a scenario, we must allow the ambulance to cross first. Then we can cross, as we know. Now we have this case. You would like to continue going forward. Do you let this person go first or not? And of course, we must give the priority to the pedestrian in this case. As we can see, he's a senior person using a walker. So we wait and we allow the pedestrian to cross, then we cross. In which of the following cases you are entitled to cross the military convoy and continue in your journey? We have two cases. We have the first case is even roundabout and the second case uneven or unequal roundabout. Of course, in the second case, since we have the priority on the road, we are entitled to interrupt and cross the convoy, meaning we can go through, we can cut the convoy and continue on our journey. However, in this case, we must wait since it's even intersection and the first car already passed, so we must wait. Which of the following conditions must a bus stop and wait for the cars to pass, knowing that this is within the residential area? So we have two cases here. We have case number 1, number 2. Take a look and think about it for a second. Now we are inside the bus and we want to leave the bus stop. Usually if we are inside the residential area, we don't have to wait for the other cars to pass. So we may leave the bus stop, no problem. However, here we want to leave the bus stop and we notice that there is a funeral procession going on and the first vehicle already passed. So in this scenario, we have to wait for all the vehicles to pass, then we may leave our bus stop. We have to check, of course, for the funeral flag. And that's pretty much it, my friends. As usual, by the end of the session, we leave you with some important words. Try to check those words in English and Dutch. If you learn them in Dutch, that would be great, of course. You can always keep in touch with us on our Facebook. You can reach us through the numbers and emails showing on the screen. We wish you all the best. See you in the next session.